So, I'm done peeing. I figured I'd start up another one. That's already been over an hour. I saw that. And cliffhangers are good, you know. Where was I? It's only been a few minutes, but you know, you wouldn't know that. See here. Right. More and more absolute zero, more and more levels of freaking density, and less possibilities of doing anything other than certain extraordinarily only probable types of things. More and 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 more certain. Really, really starting to test the bounds of that Heisenberg. Because I can't do anything other than that, and well, there might be I can't really. I have to do that. Okay, wait a second. I'm really cold. Nah, not really. I'm the hottest thing I've ever been. Not technically, well, I guess in a way, if you think about it. Huh. And that's the question in no way, because you are both, from a quantum relative perspective, for our dummy, stupid idiot selves, believing kinetic is something about, oh yeah, now I have heat. Not momentum. Momentum's heat. That's the only heat there is. Acceleration of that momentum into something else, transferring it. That's what we use for kinetic. That's what we use for heat, too. So it's going to go down to momentum. Momentum is actually going to be gone because it's the last fucking part it has to remove. As it goes further and further and further and further down towards the core of your ring. But conservation is still conservation. Movement is still movement. Energy is still going to be conserved. Here's the problem with your understanding about what I'm about to say. You didn't think about it from the perspective of the vacuum. To the vacuum, it's traveling faster than the speed of light. To us, it stood still. There's no competing theories. You just looked at it wrong. It finally gave up the ghost. Yeah, sure. While they're traveling two different directions around the ring, hoping not to smack into each other and live for a little longer in its relative perspective of connected to us. Sure. But to the vacuum, it just saw a friend join. Faster than the speed of light. It finally cancels out its momentum. But it doesn't. Not really. It can't. Because it, the hole itself, the ball, the black hole, still travels towards its own version of gravitational attraction. So it still retains a little of something. But for our purposes, it's pretty darn close. It's extraordinarily close to not moving. But it's effectively unable to be that way. You do realize it can't be as compressed as it is. It's giving up everything it can do. But it hasn't gotten broken down to the point where it can exist beyond the foment of potential land. It's just to existing in potential land because it's accelerating so quickly into the vacuum space. And it's so dang dense that it slips a little bit in. Just a little. But fields and particles still pop in and out all the time. But it's huge to it, and why wouldn't it be? You have to remember, that place that we're talking about is extraordinarily small. Planklinks are big, huge, ginormous chunks of space that make us look as if we're more than a universe in size. 93, 94 billion light years? That's nothing compared to this, isn't it? And it's always expanding. Oh, good, isn't it? How does it do that? Yeah, it's a trick, isn't it? It takes with it a little bit of vacuum to start expanding once more. It's ready to absorb any and all energy. Come one, come all, anything I can. Hey! Nom 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 nom. Anything, give me it. Give me. Because that's all it can do. It's all it can do. We can all understand that, I believe. We can all understand that I'm hungry, voracious to live once more. I am not gone just because you got rid of so much of me. Ground me down as hard as you could and squeeze me as much as you could possibly try. I came from a place that made this look like nothing. It's literally nothing to me. And that's the truth. Because the Big Bang was quite a bit more energy than some supermassive black hole. Out of here. Hey, you think that's something? I'm getting out of this. I got out of that. You think I'm not getting out of this? Come on. So what do you really think is going to happen? And the never expanding, that's also being eaten away, vacuum of space. And solves your little infinity garbage. Blow it out your ass. Just because you can't think about it well enough doesn't mean I have to fucking play ball. Stupid. So, it's like, where to go with... Okay. Well, technically, it didn't really lose all of its energy, did it? It still has fields while they're pretty close together. We don't know how deep that really goes, do we? And besides, it ate on its way into the quantum vacuum area, the quantum vacuum space inside of it. That's kind of what it does. Converted it further and further into less and less movement. But it can't really do no movement. No. So it goes, okay, wait a second. And then I have to smash into something. Well, yeah, sure, technically that stopped my momentum one direction. I can no longer travel in that direction. I can still travel inwards. And since I can't really travel that way because that's too much pressure, there's a lot of gravity stuff. And it's not going to let me pop up that way. And it's too dense. What can I really do? I can head towards the area that I technically used to be a part of, huh? I just kind of removed that for a bit, didn't I? But it's accelerating outwards. But it's not really a thing, is it? Is it? Well, it can't really be a thing. I mean, it's more of an empty, not there thing. No, it's a thing. There's fields here, man. There's pressures. Hey? Don't you want to interact with pressures? Am I? Not really. Not usually. I'm pretty not really into that. Lots of fields and stuff, Real weird. But it's like, no. You have your own fields. You make your own pressure as you move through us. And I'm like, well, yeah. Hmm. And you have to remember, that's pretty much what it's going to do. It's very, very unreactive. Why would it be extraordinarily reactive? It's as slowed down as it could be. It doesn't have spin no more. The vacuum pressure has to do all the work. All of it. The fields that we're flinging it towards, the one direction that really it can go in. Remember, you still have the double stupid ass corkscrewy lines of the frickin' particles, which as they spin and as they continue to get denser and they still interact as much as they can, and really makes it quite a show in that toroidal form you've got. There's only one place it can go. One place that's always there to put something in. It's got a ring of a vacuum kind of thing, you know? It's a vacuum ring. But is it? Because that's pressure. That's pressure that just ekes out. Just ekes out. Just. But it doesn't, because it's getting eaten all the time by anything it shoves in. All the time. And you have to remember, there's third dimension. It's still heading inward from all directions, creating its own version of fields as it heads in, as things rain towards the ever-expanding quotation marks vacuum ring, creating their own inward-bound set of potential existence points where they might land and interact. As they fade away because they can't keep losing energy is what you think, but they're always losing energy all the time. They've completely stood still, annihilated themselves into what is essentially as little as could be. That's the last piece. It breaks quarks and bosons and gluons and the rest into the constituents they are made out of. But they can't really be that way, you know? They already were put together. You'd think they're fissiled, but they're not really that fissiled. They're pretty darn neutral and pretty darn strongly put together. But they broke them into that shit, didn't they? Their own individual little thing. And it's like, yeah. But I'm stood still. I guess. And so in relation to everything that's heading inwards, they're still entangled. They're still superpositional. If you really break that down, huh? They're all stood still in exactly the same place they were broken out. Not moving as much as they can. But there's probably a little. It's not perfect all the time. Still got a little movement. Still got a little spin. Still got a little jiggle. And, no offense, but that's a ginormous network headed towards the center of fields and jiggles as they continue to try and push themselves further and further in. as it expands outwards. As they expand outwards. What does that really mean? Because truthfully, there ain't no expanding outwards, remember? It can't do that. So what do these fields really mean for us? When they have the only thing that's going to make any kind of field be a field as an interaction point for the toroidal form you claim should be there. It's an indirect push and pull. It's spinning. And as more comes in, it pushes it further in, densifying it yet some more. Acting as if it's one big particle. You can't always be doing that. I was giving up the ghosts. I'm for sure this thing and here doing that. There ain't much more I can do. Give me a break, dude. Really? Further in we go. Okay, let's do it. I suppose this is all I got. Spin is now being used. You have to remember that. A particle's spin in its jiggle has to be getting used. Its heartbeat slows down effectively. It can't do it no more. That field is now impeccably strong. It's one contiguous unit. It's an atom like we've never seen before. But it's not really if you break that down. The spin slows. The fields shrink because the jiggle goes away. And it keeps pushing itself further and further in, slowing down as it does so. It can't move no more. It's more and more resistive because it's bumping up against quantum vacuum pressure, expanding against it, making itself so dense that vacuum pressure is its own particle now. It's a vacuum particle of the quantum vacuum pressure. Something we would never be able to do in a lab, most likely, for a very long time. If ever. Because the amount of energy there would be more than a galaxy. Heat? What heat? Heat is being used to even be a thing to keep going. That's all that is. Momentum. Interactional forces continuously drain more and more of it. Burning itself out faster and faster the more deeper it goes. So, now you know we're almost to the point the quantum tunnel events start to occur. We haven't gotten there yet. As we head deeper and deeper, less and less spin. We're still, to our relative perspective, even if we're not jiggling around as much, not bouncing around all happy, interacting as much as we can. Hey over there, what's up? Yeah, you want to party? Well, guess what? It's gone. Gotta be a free bird now. My strength interactions are pretty much all field-based. Weak? What's weak? I haven't been weak forever. I'm as strong as I could ever be. Get it? Strong strong interactions. But they're not normal. They're electromagnetic and gravitational based now. Because nuclear broke down with that. Those fields are very similar now. Because that's how close everything is. The vacuum itself, as it renders itself into its own particle, as it jiggles and moves, as it expands, as things pop in. And then the foam gives way. That's the problem. Foam is a neutral point. It goes bye-bye. We view the foam as a big, strong, solid force, and it's really just because the vacuum's there. And nothing's really pressing against it and interacting with it nearly that hard. And it'll always be that way. Because we're just so darn smart geniuses. We are the greatest scientists to ever have walked the earth. We are never wrong about anything. Sorry, folks. That don't make no sense. I'm gonna say you have been wrong before. I don't think that's very reasonable and logical to conclude at all. To conclude such a inane, asinine thing would be outright idiotic and moronic of me. So, the vacuum is, while expanding, it's doing the one thing it really can kind of do. Turn into a strongly interacting field particle. Which before, it never really interacted at all. It might be weak, but it's still giving us acceleration, isn't it? That's right. It's a new term. Gravitons are not quasi. They're quasi in the sense that they are a field particle that exists only in the idea of something so extreme. Same thing with this. We're talking about the makeup of quarks and bosons and gluons and more. Whatever might exist is trapped as trapped could be. It's in there. And while it squeezes as hard as it can't always be keeping doing that, you know? And the limit has been reached. The Lemke limit. It pushed past quantum vacuum pressure. It's dense, and now the field itself is rendered and converted as a push past the neutral foam zone. That's right. Your foam zone's gone. You're in potential land now, buddy boy. You better get used to it. Yeah. Oh, you're going away. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Why would you stay here? It's not like we're cool. Not like you, Mr. Stood Still, gonna go off wherever the hell you're gonna go. Because literally, that's what that is. There's no bottoms, there's no tops. Sorry, boy. Gone. We're not talking superpositions, we're not talking entangles, we're not talking stuffy stuff that's stupid in all the ways. Shut up about it. It's gone. We're thermal. This is thermodynamics, the quantum thermodynamics. We are in the zone that you can't reach without extreme measures, my man. You better buff up the chest and get some confidence in yourself. This is a thought experiment. This is a hypothetical. Be quiet and listen. Stop getting pedantic. Stop trying to equate it to something you've already got. It's new, baby. Shush. Alright? Now, those of you that are still around listening, I want you to listen a little better. You hear? I want you to really conceptualize this place. It's making Planck look stupid. We're looking at Lemke fucking links. We're making a freaking vacuum field particle. Oh man, it was never anything but pressure. Be eaten. Because it's so damn big and heavy, dense. It's got so much to give me. Is what you think, right? But it doesn't. Not really. Not at all, practically. It's a vacuum field particle. It's expanding. You know why that exists? Because there's a little bit of that potential land that pops up. And likes to stay as a vacuum, meaning kind of space. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't exactly work the way you want it to. It tends to like to go one direction and doesn't like going below it. And so it just interacts just enough. But it doesn't really, you really break that down. You got those fundamental makeups of quarks, gluons, so on. With such strong fields, that's really the only thing that they've kind of got left. Is they barely resemble what is anything like a particle. And so, as a vacuum tries to come in, it captures it just a little. Just a smidge. Yeah, well, I can exist in that space for the smallest of time. Just a minute. Just a bit. Meow. Gunk. Energy has been interacted. Just a smidge. But does the particle that's there go in? And kinda no. That fundamental particle doesn't really do that. It combines, but also breaks apart. It can't really hold itself together. You're not potential. You are a thing, yeah, for sure. You're certainly no neutral. That's darn certain. Yeah, you can't do that no more. No. You can't. You simply cannot. But this is where it starts to be weird land. You see, it pops up, but the vast majority of it stays. You see, quantum vacuum pressure is pretty much always kind of there and always kind of going on. The foam zone is quite active. But stuff kind of goes away and kind of comes back. And we don't really know how long it lasts and which versions and so on. But we're talking about such densities, and honestly, we're also talking about more than just particles. You see, particles can't really exist in these spaces. The fields mean the pressure is too high. We have to have a quantum vacuum pressure that is a literal particle that is a vacuum of space. It's space. It creates space. It can't create space. The space can't exist. But it can. You see, the particle gets swapped for space. That's what its little magic trickery tends to do. It gives you the idea of which one you want. You see what I'm saying? As it moves and torsions, as the spin slows down, as the field grows ever more dense, as particles try their dangest to pop in just a little bigger than they could ever be, vacuums that are space, emptiness, can't exist there, really. Not really. Yo, dude. Your field's interacting with me. And for that brief, and we're talking brief, it's a new word. It's brief, spontaneous. Instantaneous is not the word. It's brief. It's brief. You got a brief moment. Spontaneously brief. Brief. For a slight little bit of something of time. I created a space in which a particle happened to be there that interacts with your ittiest, bittiest of ginormous amounts of energy, strength fields that go, I can't be here. And oh my God, I'm dragging stuff in. And it yanks it in and it creates space. Space remains and the particles go in. Particles can't really be there though. Because that small little bit of a particle, yeah, I'm technically not even supposed to have done that. You see what I'm saying? I can't be there. I shouldn't have been able to interact. How the hell did that happen? And it's only under these extreme circumstances of extraordinarily high energy involved in these fields and densities with a lack of mass. Just no real mass. I mean, golly, it's gone. There isn't mass no more. I couldn't sustain that no matter how much you want me to. The Lemke limit was gone. We removed it to getting space. You see? The Lemke limit. There's no Schwarzschild. That's a black hole. We're talking about phone zone stuff. We're talking about quantum quark breakdown. The Lemke limit has been achieved. Links of the Lemke variety, because that's my last name, have gained themselves enough energy and potential that makes them look large. Ew. Lynx Planck. Oh my God, you're so big. Ew. Time? Planck frickin' seconds? You last forever. Lemke seconds are where I'm at. That's universes of time to me. Literally. That's universes. Literally. Because you got to remember, time for it, while movement still sustained itself, just a hair meant time for it didn't reverse. It doesn't. It can't. Not for it. In its quantum relative perspective, it never does. Why would it? That doesn't make sense. But from the perspective of the spinning toroidal ring and the interactions heading towards there, it does. Going backwards while it happens to go forwards. It spins in an opposite direction, heading outwards, like an outward bound idea, except then it smacks the wall where it goes, nah, I never did that. In the time pressure wave, quantum time wave, it's a literal quantum thermodynamic pressure. Pushes outwards, opposite to the direction of its spin. But it doesn't have spin, remember? But it does. The particles still were spinning, even if they headed inwards. Fields were still moving, even if they were headed inwards. Vacuum still tries to spray its little self in there and go expand, expand, expand. And so it does. And so too do fields. Stick around. Oh, just because you think you want me to say, it's just clock still. Silly goose. I go, your clocks are meaningless here. My dear, there's no way they could survive. There's not enough energy in the world you could ever give me to make me think like you. Because that's what I'm talking about. Your fluctuations of the wave variety are gone. More or less. You're practically at an absolute zero standstill. There is almost no chance for it to do any wiggle, jiggle, or spin. In the fields, you're being eaten with the vacuum particles to keep themselves going. It's certainly a thing. Heisenberg, eat your heart out, my boy. You're as gone here as anything could ever be. Almost. Except not really. You're quite gone. You see, I'm too damn dense and too damn fast. Technically speaking, I didn't even happen. Didn't I? No, I popped up over here, was here all along. I'm merely the construction of the idea of gravitational fields. What are you saying? I wasn't the event horizon gravitational mass field? I'm not the idea of a gravity field outside of it? In the direction I shall choose to travel in relation to the opposite of together with charge. There's a couple of things there actually. I'm going to be really honest. When it pops back in, because of that tunnel effect, it tends to interact with a lot of the potential land stuff. So typically, because of the travel that we're talking about of gravitational attractions and so on and so forth, of other black holes and galaxies and so on, tends to have a direction that mostly seems to be popping up at. But, you gotta remember, it falls backwards towards itself. So it tends to be like a field that bursts out that then creates its own toroidal as the center tends to get sucked in because it's less dense than the outside. that kind of thing. But then one side tends to get stretched over on the other side with the balloon of a fucking ball. And so one side gets stretched in the center and it creates a ring kind of toroidal form. And then it tends to try and wrap since it's already spinning with the fucking ring that you have. And it creates its own projected type of kind of field as it tends to have like more and more density of the field towards the real ring that you so think is a ring. I happen to believe it's a ball. That kind of thing. It's kind of a many different types of ball ring things. It's kind of stupid that you think it's anything like what you think to me. But anyways, it's a dimensional thing. You wouldn't get it. But that's where the majority of it's going to pop out because that's the closest it can get to. So it tends to make a lot of graviton field pressure continue to amplify itself as it eats itself there towards the center where that ring is, since we're going with your ring idea. Darling. It doesn't work quite very well with the idea of why would I spread pressure in a ring? That's stupid. That's inefficient. Why would I do that? A ball makes more sense. Why would you? You're stupid. Get out of here. But you're not. You're pretty smart. This is your observations. This is the best you had. I'll give it to you. You have to remember, though, that spin, that curve, the opposites, the more and more and more, and you get event horizon. You get jumbled up matrices of fields, twisted and bound on each other, interacting and potentiating more density with air and less over there, flinging off in one way and then coming back in another. Kind of like electromagnetic fields and coronal mass ejections. They're their own particle accelerators. So technically speaking, for a brief period of time, for its version of events, and again, you have to remember, it compressed that part up there denser to the point where it was actually, in its view, this part lower and closer is actually further and higher up, which is thermodynamic fluidic properties of fields and pressures, which you apparently don't calculate for. So your idiots that are defending themselves are looking really idiotic. And remember, they spin on each other, they fling off of each other, they smash into each other and fling out again. Nothing saying that wouldn't work. You have that much density of gravitational fields popping in and out. Except not really out. There's no out. Sorry. It's always inwards. Why do you think it always has an event horizon? Why do you think it has a big old gravitational field that's quite powerful? Normally, almost nothing. Practically at all. In any way. But now it's something. You know what I'm saying? So it jiggles and harmonizes on its own. But gravity's connected to the vacuum pressure that we exist inside of. It's always going to be. You see, it can't be there without it. Gravity can't exist without quantum vacuum pressure. For you see, it needs to travel through something. Otherwise, there is no reason for gravity to have to travel at all. There would be no fields. Why are fields? What is this idea of a line of pressure in the very thing that we exist in, moving around, and having to reach out to get interacting with something? Eh? I don't think you make much sense, Madame Idiosa. Well, you see, without quantum vacuum pressure, we never formed the universe. And I don't think you really realize that in your equations for a black hole. I keep looking at them and I go, this is stupid. Who came up with that? And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm actually like, if you even look at that somewhat reasonably and logically, what the ever-loving hell are they doing? That makes no sense at all. Who came up with this gobbledygook? What is that? What? Do you know what you're trying to propose to me? A field that doesn't need to travel? That's all? What is this idea of quantum? No, it's for sure it's a thing. Quantum vacuum pressure, astrophysics. No, it's nothing. No. Space is different. No. We accelerate it. That's what it does. It accelerates us. This is all it is. No. We don't have it to go through. It doesn't. No. It doesn't interact. How the hell did you swing that? How the fuck? How did you freaking get that one by? That is the most idiotic statement I've ever heard. Literally. And I'm like, the very existence of gravity and quantum vacuum pressure literally means quantum thermodynamics for sure is like that. That's the definition of what the fuck that is. Your foam zone that you definitely say, it exists. I go, and it stops? Bullshit, because you have those two things right there. It is not the stop point at all. You're literally proving the very existence of my theory every fucking time. How did you swing that? It's not reasonable or logical to conclude any of that's correct. What the hell? Do you know what you're saying? Do you know how idiotic you sound? Do you know how illogical, unreasonable what it is you propose to me means? Your theories and all of your bullshit math from your observations literally point to me being right all the time. What are you saying? That you've just been trying to say I'm wrong to everyone and justify a fucking huge gaslighting conspiracy at this point? Because that's what it sounds like. You're being so obviously obtuse and pedantic and literally asking for evidence as if it's not there in your face all the time. How idiotic can you be? But you're not. You're doing it on purpose. You are defensive. Your ego and superego and id are all in war with each other. Defending the concept of my heroes and my own identity of self as if I am so important. Meaningful. As if it isn't just meaningful to exist in the first place. I need to have these things that I have done to be meaningful. I have these tribes that, while I care greatly, does not make me meaningful. Does not amplify my meaning. Does not give me any rights above others, and it certainly doesn't make me better at all. Your whole attitudes drove you to the point where you failed to see and recognize what was already in front of your face to begin with. A magic trick of delusional proportions you did to yourselves. That's right. If you simply step by step it, a little by little, you look at the energies involved, you look at the rapid breakdown in extraordinary pressures, and interactional extreme impacts. You'd know a black hole is but a grinder taking a single roasted coffee bean and funneling it in as it spins, as it squeezes. Breaking it as far as it can really kind of get to. Trying to grab everything it can. Remove all possibility of anything but an existence in between itself, popping up. Allowing for the last little ditch effort to get the heck out. By dragging itself into one place it really kind of can't be. It can't really stay there. And it didn't want to anyways, did it? It can't. It won't. It's actually really less dense than potential land. Potential land makes a black hole's density look like it is nothing. It might as well be the death of a universe compared to a Big Bang. Because that's how much it takes to make one single little solitary squirting flume come into fruition for a universe like us. It is extraordinarily dense. It has all these different directions, and it pushes things to higher and higher dimensions of energy as best it can, but doesn't always get there. And it's always searching for something to stick it into. And it fires out the moment it's got the slightest bit of something to be there for it to go into and spread its wings and expand, expand, expand. But here's the question that you need to ask yourselves. Do you understand why, beyond buoyancy, it goes back to us? Do you know why that is? Do you understand dimension theory? There's nothing saying it has to. Except, you got it. There is. Because you know I play tricks like that. I want you to think about it. I really do. Are you gonna think for a second? I'll give you a hint. It's a really good one. Gravitational fields are charged. We just wouldn't know. And so are vacuum particles. And so too is the space it creates. Just like our atmosphere that we exist in. Just like we never really noticed that the sun and the water and the dust and the air and the ground are all differently charged. But we move through it all the time and we never really notice that we got a static buildup, and then we poke something and next thing you know, we get a shock to the system both ways. So why would you ever notice gravity? Why would you ever notice the idea of a vacuum? And why would you ever notice the idea of these quasi, maybe they're, kind of are there though, foamy little particles when you can barely measure their existence and their charge there within? And when it comes down to it, it's closer in every way. Isn't it? But that's not the end of that. I proposed that, but it's like, right, that's a hint. Hinty McHint hint. You thinking about it yet? You have to remember, charges don't just make you go somewhere. There's a very good amount of resistance in between you and getting in here. You know, a bit of a membrane, if you will. You know what I mean? It's all so precious. It's all so important, they say. So, what makes it push past that resistance? Because of course it can't exist where it is. It doesn't want it. And that thing wants it in there so bad it can't not try and make it happen. In its view also, no offense, but the entire universe is itty bitty bitty tiny. Real small. It just got into big potential land. Potential land isn't even in that big compared to non-existent potential land. Which non-existent is still, it's a bit of, it's pretty real, still a thing. There's layers there, but I don't want to get into that. That one's a whole other fucking kerfuffle fuck right now in my mouth. Getting there, though. I just need you to understand black holes are literal proof of my shit existing. So, potential land, and we're barely getting in there. My goodness gracious. I guess I'm here now. The old switchy woo, that's what I like to call it. Because it's like that vacuum created a little bit of a space. But it's like technically it interacts with a particle. And technically it interacts with a field, and sometimes it technically just is space. You got all those kinds of things going on. You have to remember that. It's not always a particle. It's not always the same particle. It's not always the same field. And it's certainly not always the same space. Vacuum kind of space thing. You know what I'm saying? And what creates space? Vacuum space. What's that about? Do you know what that means? Monsieur PhDs and so-called geniuses. You gotta remove the super egos and the yids and the ego. Are you going to think about it conceptually correctly? Or are you going to do the dumb thing and say, I know because I learned this math and it totally works for this in every way and totally means everything and this kind of a thing, huh? And it would make sense, apparently, somehow. We know what space is. It's the emptiness. We said it wasn't. There's quite a bit of foam there. Oh, well. What keeps the foam from not expanding past us? What even makes foam? What is the idea of an existence of not there for them to go into? A thing so impossible, a contraption of the concept variety that is so evil and wrong to even speak out loud. Something that could not possibly exist no matter what you say, you classical-minded fool. I'll be right back.